Hey guys, it's Brianna, and today we are talking all about patches, and this is my very first time making one. So I've got my stabilizer, my felt. The reason I'm using felt is because it is a fabric that you can cut around without it fraying at the ends and coming unraveled and gross. So now I'm just picking out my design. I use a little report folder to keep all my designs in, so it says the size of them so I know how many I can put in one hoop based on what kind of project I'm doing. Now it's time to hoop my fabric, seeing how many times I can hoop the felt, which is 2, and that's pretty good. But you can obviously wiggle around your hoop more and fit more designs on it. So I'm just taking my piece of cutaway stabilizer, putting it on the bottom, putting my felt on top, and hooping it. Always make sure you tighten up your screw on your hoop, otherwise it could pop out. I've mentioned this in other videos, but I like to keep a journal of the colors that I use and the process. So if it's an applique, I like to say like, okay, at this point the machine's going to stop so you can cut it, or at this point you need to lay down the fabric because it's going to do the top stitch around, or if it has a trace layer, and so on and so forth. Here's the result for the Pooh Bear, but he was too cute, so I didn't want to use him for a test, so I decided to do a name instead, just lining it up, making sure that I used this bottom part of the felt, because I really hate to waste fabric, and on top I put a piece of water stabilizer to keep the thread from going too far down into the felt. It may be tempting to just rip open your embroidery hoop, but if you do this over time, it will break the screw, so just be careful, take your time, unscrew it. Taking off the water stabilizer and snipping the threads or jump stitches. Next, I'm going in with some tweezers just to remove any of the little bits of the water stabilizer in between the letters. Once I finished embroidering, it was time to finally start making my patch. I took some heat and bond and placed it shiny side down and pressed it with my mini easy press for about 10 to 15 seconds. And then wait for it to completely cool before peeling off the back. Using my fabric scissors, I'm just cutting around Liam to make my patch. With the patch cut out, I've got a scrap piece of fabric here, and I'm just gonna test it out and let's see if this works. I hope it does, but it seems a little bit too easy. So I'm just taking my heat press and I'm using the piece that I pulled off of the backing from the heat and bond on top, just in case. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but I think there needs to be a little barrier in between it and the threads. It just made me feel better. Okay, so here is the patch. I'm trying to pull it up and it's not coming off, but you can see the issue here. So when I put the heat and bond on, I did not cut away the stabilizer. So the gaps in between the stabilizer and the actual felt is showing up, so it's like you can slit your fingers underneath it. So let's try this again. Now that we are caught back up, let's trim around the stabilizer this time. Of course, if you had tearaway stabilizer, that would skip the whole cutting out the stabilizer, but I don't have that, so we're working with what we got. So I'm cutting as close as I can to the stitches, and I think that's a pretty good job. We are in the business of learning, and that comes with mistakes, so I did take my fabric scissors a little bit too early. I should have waited and put the heat and bond on before cutting it out because that would be easier, but I'm not going to refilm it just to make it perfect because this is a first time video. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm learning as I go. I decided just to put it on afterwards by using the scrap piece. So I just put it on the bottom, and with the one on the top, I knew that both surfaces weren't going to get gunked up with the heat and bond because you don't want it to get stuck on the press and you don't want it to get stuck on the mat either. After pulling up the iron, I decided to pull off the front layer, otherwise it would be sandwiched together and stuck. So I'm just peeling that off and then waiting for it to cool before peeling off the backing. Here is the second patch, and just picking a place to test it. That looks good. This time I didn't use the backing from the heat and bond or wax paper on top. I really wanted to see if it would leave anything on my iron. There's no reason it should, but for some reason in my mind the first time I thought it would, but it didn't, so all clear there. And here is the final results. So I'm just picking at all of the corners, bending it to see if it ripples up like the first one did. Compared to the first one, you can definitely tell a difference. You can't stick your finger in between the layers anymore of the stabilizer and the actual felt, so that's great. I really like the look of a patch with this kind of material because sometimes your embroidery can get lost if there's too much happening in the background. I just feel like this looks cleaner. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel for more content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!